Continuing, this business about words, for example, government. I talk about government. It's terribly important, critically important. It's imperative that people have a meeting of the minds when it comes to bandying terms like freedom. Exactly what do you mean? What are we talking about here? Financial freedom? What's this right to freedom and how we have this great freedom in America? Well, what does that equate to some poor homeless bastard living out on the street? You understand? What good is his precious freedom? He'd rather be locked up, safely ensconced behind bars where he gets 3 hots and a cot and gets to survive the night. So, you got to define these terms. And you got to explain to me, you defend capitalism. Well, you got to explain to me why you would defend the opposite of capitalism, okay, which is crony capitalism. Why is it the opposite? Because the effects are the opposite. True capitalism leads to a diminished wealth imbalance, wealth disparity, not from taking from the wealthy and giving to the poor, okay, but by simply allowing the poor to become wealthy. Do you understand how that works? That is supply and demand capitalism. That is the net result. That is called progress. It happens automatically. It happens naturally. It happens organically. Okay, when you don't interfere, like the 2008 bailout. Outrageous. So when I'm talking about government, these politicians and bureaucrats that are just another one of these special interest groups in a position of power to validate and authorize the theft of the wealth of the people of a nation. That's what they've done. That's not a legitimate government. Okay, we the people are the only legitimate government. All the bureaucrats and all the politicians that are getting paid from the government coffers, whoever you are, you know who you are, okay? You are my employee. You are an employee of we the people, whoever you are. And you know who you are. That's who I'm talking to. And you've taken a fascist turn. You are colluding and you are collaborating with the New World Order types, okay? And they are all bent on destruction of the American way of life. This idea of freedom is getting to be more and more of a pipe dream in America, okay? We've become less free as we become less financially free, as we've seen the wealth imbalance increase and poverty dramatically increase over the last 55 years. And all these welfare programs. I was talking about all the jobs that would disappear, that we'd stop all having to pay for if you just ended desperate poverty with a basic income, okay? Yeah, there's another one of them. The welfare industrial complex. All those jobs would go away. All the people in financial services jobs would go away. 25% of Americans right there. Right there, they're going to be out of a job. The criminal industrial complex, how many Americans are employed into some capacity in the criminal industrial complex? The dubious warfare industrial complex. Okay? The welfare industrial complex. The national debt is part of that financial services industrial complex. And they're colluding with the government interests, okay, like the Chamber of Communists. Why do you think I call them that? Because this whole unlimited immigration to America is all about just falsely propping up the economy. That's all it is. It's putting a demand. You've heard of head counts. You know that the schools get paid per student. Okay, that's how the money is allotted and budgeted. You know it's all these censuses, and that's what I mean by head count. Okay, it's driving us further in debt. They don't care as long as that money's going on their side of the equation. As long as their numbers are looking good, they get cost of living increases. They can increase the cost they're charging you for stuff. They're colluding. And it's all, so many people are colluding in this housing industry. It makes my head spin. The lenders, the real estate agents, the property management companies, the speculators, the flippers, the landlords, the innocent little homeowner that rubs their hand together whenever they see an unearned increment, whenever they see the ill-gotten gain coming in their favor. No improvements on your house. It's still a dilapidated piece of crap, yet the value went up. What the hell's going on? Okay, it's because of the peers aren't letting their peers down. They're saying, I'm going to set the trend here. I'm going to have the highest rents in town. And you're an idiot if you don't follow suit and raise your rents. In fact, I don't like, we're going to blacklist you. We don't like you. You're not one of us, one of us, one of us. You got to keep your prices up, man. I know the score, okay? And you need to know the score. We all need to know the score. And I told you what to do, nuts and bolts. Everybody that's renting tomorrow, call your landlord. It's Friday. They've got to be in a good mood. So say, look, I'm going to need, a 10% reduction in my rent. It's a start. It's something. But say, look, I need it, or otherwise I'm going to have to leave. And if everybody does that in unison at the same time, all the landlords are going to go, what are going to they're going to all the little hissy fit, and they'll agree to it. Because they're just socking this money away somewhere, and your money is going into the stock market or going to buy more foreclosed houses. Okay, all this deliberate foreclosed houses through these liar loans and all this. Bill Clinton getting rid of the Glass-Steagall Act, nearly single-handedly causing the need for the bailout of '08. These people are collaborating and colluding together. George Bush, after 9/11, we're cucked, man. We tolerated 9/11. 6 out of 10 of the commissioners said this is wrong. This is a fraud. This investigation, what you're doing. This is obviously a setup. This is obviously, we got inside black hats working in this deal that have ushered this thing in, allowed it to happen. Okay? They knew what was going on. George Bush giving everyone the green light. The terrorists hate your freedom. So go out and invest and spend a lot of money. And this is after Bill Clinton allowed the Glass-Steagall Act to expire. Gave the gangsters a green light to go rip off the public, go Wild West on their asses, and dump all this money on us, expecting repayment. If you're a money lender, don't you want to dump all the money you have on the public? If it's just sitting in your coffers, it's not making you any money. If you dump it on the public, you're renting it out. So they tell you, yeah, just rent as much. Appraisals don't mean anything anymore. Just say whatever you want to say, man. Say, look, this is what they're getting for rents over here for this 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. They're running it as a boarding house, Airbnb. So this is what the new appraisal is based on. Do you understand? Please understand basic economic principles, basic real estate principles. Understand how this thing works. So that's how they do their new appraisals now. They say, well, what are they getting for this? Well, they're extracting $2,000 a month rent from this 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. So what can you get for it? Well, it's no longer worth $150,000. It's worth $300,000 now. You get how that works? Okay, we're in it deep. We're in it deep, and this monster does not want to stop. They're going to keep pushing this envelope, kicking this can down the road, stretching this thing out as long as they can get away with it. And it's only when you put your foot down and say, I'm done with your euphemistically termed cost of living tax perpetually increasing when my wages are not increasing commensurately. Okay, say I can't take it anymore, and I'm not, even if I don't need the extra money, I can afford to pay the rent. I'm going to do it for my brother or sister that can't. Okay, do it for somebody else. Do it for the future generations. Even if you don't believe in God and answering to God for not caring about other people, like Jesus said, whatsoever you do or fail to do for the least of men, you have done or failed to do for me. So even if you don't have the fear of God in your soul, have fear of the future generations coming and spitting on your grave all the time, thinking nothing of you, thinking you're just a piece of crap. You paid the rent because your numbers were good. It was easy for you, so you don't care the landlord raised your rent. Not thinking about those that are really, they're at their wits' end. Okay, they're ready to go down the tubes. Do you understand? And there's no more Section 8 left. Go try to get Section 8. HUD, housing. If there was Section 8, wouldn't they house the homeless? For God's sake, people, put 2 and 2 together and understand how deeply we are entrenched in madness. Okay, it is just everywhere. It's ubiquitous. Okay, and I'm telling you, I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in humanity. I don't. Straight up, I do not. I don't know if we're going to get it together before the return of Christ. But that's my hope, is that if we don't get it together, that's all I can say, because it's very hard for me to witness this thing. My whole life I've had to witness this thing unfold. This currency debasement, okay, this anti-progress, this regression under the guise of capitalism, which is really crony capitalism, which produces the opposite results. Understand, I see it as clear as day, and it makes me nuts. So I need some release. I need some relief. And the only place I know of where to get it is to trust in God and to know the good guy is going to win this thing. Good is stronger than bad. Truth is stronger than lies. Light is stronger than darkness. And on in that theme. Okay? That's where I put my trust, is in the Lord. And you know what? That's what I got. But you know what? I'm not going to stop fighting the good fight and believing that humanity can get it together, but only with God's help. Ushering it in. We've got to work with God on this thing, man. We've got to get it together and just understand the serious implications and, what we're facing here. And California is way ahead of the curve, man. The rest of you don't know, man. I'm telling you, high housing costs are not a good thing, contrary to popular belief. That's a stupid idea perpetuated by governments and the mainstream media and the real estate agents and the lenders. Okay, figure out who's involved in this scheme, man. And the builders. Understand, but most of the carpenters building your houses, they themselves can't afford to buy a house. Now, how does that make sense? How is that fair? How is that an American precept? My God, we are so screwed, man. We are in it so deep. We are so cucked. And I love this country as much as anybody. I defy anybody to tell me they're more patriotic or love America more. But that's the way things get done. It's called constructive criticism. Yes, of the direction of my nation. For over 5.5 decades since the assassination of JFK. Well, almost 5.5 decades. It's hot here. It's still over 80 degrees, and right now it's about 8 minutes past 9 in the evening here in Northern California. We're having a heat wave. For March 28th. It's pretty toasty. But I'm going to get into some of the current events from this past week because I'll find a lot of other stuff to talk about, and I'd like to keep this series short this evening. Has anybody ever watched a show, Pawn Stars? I didn't watch it for years. It was on. I thought, this is a stupid show. I'm not watching pawn shops. And I just checked it out of curiosity, and I found it was actually kind of educational and quite entertaining. But, you can see these guys, the grandpa and the son and the grandson involved in this business. And, of course, if anybody's watched it, Chumlee, one of the stars of the show. You get to kind of like these people, and it's just fun watching them haggle with the public. But it's such a game. You can see how resigned Grandpa is to this whole thing, and what a charade. I mean, these guys, if anybody knows what a game this thing is, it's these kind of guys. But, the funny thing is they try to put this show out like it's a reality TV show. But we all know it is not. It's all set up. It's got to be set up because otherwise it's just not going to hold people's interest. But they've got to have a lot of people coming into this shop, especially when they know they might be on TV, so yeah, there's a lot of drivers. But it was kind of an interesting idea. They had to wonder probably if it was going to be successful, but I think they did a pretty good job. But they act like they need this money. They haggle with the public like, I got to get a good deal on this item this person's trying to sell me and all this. But we all know, these people are producing the show. So, their income is coming from the advertising. So it's kind of this idea that it's a reality show is really not true, and if they put it out like that, yeah, we make a lot more and we could be very generous. We could pay people a lot more than what we are for all their stuff. But you see, we've got to be respected among our peers. Again, it comes back to my peers. You understand how this thing works? And I'm telling you, man. This is what I mean. We're in it deep. If people love money more than they love human beings, okay, it's going to be like pulling teeth to turn this ship of fools careening to destruction around. And that's what I sense. I just don't sense humanity. They love money too much. They just love money too much. They love the things it buys them, the safety and the security and the freedom and prosperity and the materialism and the power and the control, and it's just very alluring. It's very enticing, and it's very hard to resist for people. And unless you make a deliberate, concerted effort and ask for the strength that only God can give you to resist it, you won't be able to. And if humanity's going to get anything done, if Trump's going to get anything done, I still think he's a good guy. And I still believe I'm going to trust in him, taking him at his word that he's ashamed of homelessness. And what do you do when you're ashamed of something? Okay. When it's something you have power over, you do it. You fix it. Okay. Unlike sin, I mean, how many of us fall headlong into stupid sin? Besetting sin over and over, insanity over and over, this form of escapism and dissipating the time and entertaining ourselves with, the low calorie fruit of escapism. Basically, that's it. And so, that's stuff that we fall into freely. And some people will pay to do that stuff, but they don't need to get paid. And the stuff that people will do for money, okay, other people won't do for any amount of money. I mean, that shows you that's a beautiful quality that we should all seize upon, that we should all embrace. This idea that, if you're one of those people that says there's a whole